everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Atheist Apostate. I'm your host, AA, and we are coming back. This was supposed to be a series on the CES rebuttals by Bennett to the CES letters. I'm going to quickly fade over here for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about, and I will once again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so I know how many to go back. This is a reply coming from, and I'll fade back over here. This is a reply coming from one of Saint Unscripted's viewers. Saint Unscripted's viewers. So, and they cover a little bit on CES letters, and it was rubbish. I call it out. I do an hour and some video, almost a 2-hour video on that one, I believe it is, calling these guys out. David did not like this one bit. The best he could say, so is let's move my ashtray so I don't get smoke coming your way. His only shot he even takes at me is my smoke, and my, David, you are like Bennett. So you're like Bennett. I was going to take your challenge. So I would like to see you respond to each of Jim Bennett's rebuttals of each point in the CES letter, line by line. And then he gives me the PDF. So he wanted me to go line by line. This is the CES rebuttal by Bennett. So Jim Bennett. And we're going to pop this on up here so you guys can see. This is the rebuttal. I had no problem taking this on. No problem. I left the church almost 20 years ago. 10 years before CES letters was ever online, was ever brought up on Reddit. Reddit didn't even exist when I left the Mormon church. They were not even a fledgling in anyone's mind. So I left the church while Jeremy was still playing with little G.I. Joes and, whatever the toy was and watching Nickelodeon. So I left on the same source and contention of issues that Jeremy brought up. These same issues. So I was excited. I won't lie. I was excited. When David here challenged me to go over Jim Bennett's rebuttal to Jeremy's CES letters. I was excited. Here was someone going to give us a scholarly approach, or I thought, coming into a serious topic. I didn't get that. I'm 6 pages in. I'm 6. I just got into the 6th page. I was going to do one more page just to give examples of why we're not going to do a series on this. Honestly, we're not doing a series. I'm not wasting my time or my viewers' time, David. This is nothing but attacks. Jim Bennett, you are attacking Jeremy over and over. It's page after page attack. After I get to the actual issue at hand, when Jeremy brings up his first 2 issues at hand, Jim Bennett attacks him again, and we're going to show you this. Jeremy does not make any false accusations like Jim says, and he just attacks him. All it is false accusations. So, and defamation of character. It's character assassination I'm going to show you. So this is Jim Bennett's book. This is his introduction. Give me a second here, guys. This is his intro. He was a freshman from the University of South Cal. He got introduced to the Godmakers. For you guys who don't know, the Godmakers is a book/movie series, VHS series. You can get a DVD now, by Ed Decker and a other Christian, fundamental Christian group. Ed Decker was a person who was angry with the church, left the church over, pretty much he was screwing around and got busted screwing around. His own son used to go follow him around in the 80s and 90s and inform people on the full story of Ed Decker. I don't like Ed Decker. My mom was anti with Ed Decker. I use the word anti. I went through the temple. I've seen Godmakers. I can personally confirm more Godmakers, at least when I went through the temple after 1991. Pre-1991, when my mom went through pre-changes, I can say where Godmakers is wrong. My mom has told me, my mom has since left the church. My mom has told me where things were the same in Godmakers from when she went through before the 91 change and some of the endowments were changed because they were offensive to members, and that was 1990 that it changed, or 91. And my mom had gone through just before that, and my mom had not been to the temple when she saw Godmakers at the time. It terrified the shit out of her. She left the church. The same book by that this gentleman's going to be bringing up was 2 years later after my mom joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So she ran across the Mormon missionaries again. She was introduced to the same book we're going to hear in a second by this guy that this guy brings up. And my mom came back to the church. A year later, my mom was endowed. I believe it was 89. My mom was 89, 90. Just before the ceremonies were changed, my mom was endowed. And my mom never talked about it, but my mom had some issues after coming out of the temple that she never brought up to us, that she only revealed after she left the church, after I was already out. And she says some of what Decker says is true in there on the changes, but like what I would know, that wasn't changed, they're warped. So Decker is not a good person to rely on. I want to get that right out. I wanted to get that little story so you guys understand I do not support Ed Decker. I'm actually with Jeremy here. And this is important. This is important. I bring up Godmakers and Ed Decker and who Ed Decker was in his history, because this is where Jeremy's starting off with right here. He read the Godmakers from cover to cover. So, and it gave him a, I'm going to skip past his broadcaster. It gave him fits. So, like it did to my mom, it gave him fits. So, he came across Gilbert Sheriff's book as well, The Truth About the Godmakers. That's what my mom was used on my mom to bring her back to the church. So Vaughn Burnett, actually it's Buddy Burnett, Vaughn Burnett from my old ward back in Moncton was the one that gave my mom that book and brought her back to the church. He has since left the church. So, too, how ironic. But anyways, I'm familiar with this book. This is the book that my mother had. So, yes, you can read it online, no free of charge. So, this is from Jim Bennett's own mouth. Where the Godmakers had been inflammatory and insulting, Sheriff's had been reasonable and kind. No attempts to attack or defame his supposed enemies personally. I highlight this because this is all Jim himself starts to do. Maybe he changes his narrative into it, but 6 pages in and in 2 topics in from the very get-go up to now, Jim Bennett, you have been inflammatory and insulting to Jeremy and his serious questions, and this is why we're not going to give anything serious to Jim Bennett and his CS reply past this video, because I'm going to show you where Jim is doing nothing but slinging mud, Jim Bennett is nothing but throwing insulting, and Jim is doing nothing but to attack or defame his supposed enemy personally. And he does call Jeremy his enemy. He does, and you're going to see it. In my last video, I give some clips of what am I getting into, and are this only insults? Yes, it was only insults. Because when I finally got to the points, it kept on going, and this is why I refused to continue on after this video. The CES letters is quite different from the tone of the Godmakers and my old pal Walter. So I'm familiar with Walter up here too. Where's Walter Martin? So I'm familiar with Walter Martin, the Christian radio. He's a fundamental evangelical radio host. I'm familiar with him. I can't stand the guy. His old pal, I can't stand it. Jim, we're together. But there's a difference. I have a series on rebuttals, and this is what this series is. This is my spot to be, if I come across someone who's ignorant like David and Jim Bennett, this is my chance to be ignorant back. And hey, if you want to, sling mud, I'll sling mud. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. When I am doing my series, when I'm focusing on the serious issues like true Mormon stories, the truth of Islam, true Christianity, history of Christianity, when I'm doing these series, I don't sling mud. I don't get into personal attacks. I lay down the facts. I lay down the church I'm dealing with, whether it's the Mormon church, Islam, or another Christian sect. I lay down their belief. I go and I lay down the counter belief for the opposite side, the critical side. I give both sides. I leave it up to the reader or the viewer. I don't try to convince them. I don't give testimony. I don't try to convince them. I lay it out. I'm transparent, and I try to make everything transparent to let the viewer watch. I don't want to get into mudslinging. I don't want to get into insults. I don't want this to be a dirty show. This is what these rebuttals are for. If people want to get like that, this is what these rebuttals are for. And I thought the CS Letters Rebuttal series here I was planning on doing was going to actually be a true series and not a rebuttal series. I thought it was going to actually be a serious series, and it's not. It's no different. This guy's no different than evangelicals, and let's get into why. Let's get into why. Remember, where the God makers have been inflammatory and insulting, Sheriffs has been reasonable and kind, and no attempts to attack or defame his supposed enemies. Remember this as we now get into this, because this is all that Jim Bennett does. So that's all that he does. Sorry, my cat wants to pull on my wire and distract me. Sorry, guys. Okay, so let's get past the introduction here and get on to... This is his introduction, a very big introduction. For some ground rules, Jeremy's words will be in reproduced here in green or forest green, the color of my life or color of life. My responses will be in black, the color of darkness. Not going to get into that. Okay, so what inspired background out of the way? Let us begin. So let me show you the personal attack. You go, the links in the description, you viewers go. So we're going all the way back up here and starting 1 page, 2 pages, 2.5 pages starting off, and all we're getting is attacks on Jeremy right away. Nothing but attacks. You guys can go read it. I shared this with an LDS friend, so some of the comments from Jim Bennett to an LDS friend, a true believer, and she was appalled at his comments. She is appalled by his comments, a Mormon. This is Jim. I'm not going to read everything here. I want you guys to go and read this. I'm going to just take parts of this just because it's too long. I don't want a 2-hour video on something I hope to have only 45 minutes or less. Thank you for responding to, the name of the director removed. Thank you for responding to my grandfather's request to answer my concerns and questions and for offering time with me. I appreciate it. So here's Jeremy starting his letter off thanking the CS director for taking the time to answer Jeremy. This is Jim's first response, his first off response. Well, as is probably clear by this point, I've never met your grandfather. I'm not the CS director whose name you have removed. He doesn't even, he just goes right after Jeremy for removing the name. Jeremy has stated before he is trying to protect the CES director. So we have people who've confirmed the email chain and the people there who know who this director is, and Jeremy has asked them not to reveal the name. So it's not like he's unknown. We do have independent verified sources that this CES director exists. But all Jim wants to do is go right after him right away about removing the name. So after all these years, we still don't know who the guy is. Has he come forward? Is he in some kind of witness protection program? Is he hiding in the John Taylor bunker in the Logan Temple? Do you see this? So let's go back up here for a second. What did he claim about the author of The Truth About the God Makers? Where the God Makers had been inflammatory and insulting. So where they had been inflammatory and insulting, the person he holds in esteem, Sheriffs, has been reasonable, kind, with no attempt to attack or defame. With no attempt to attack or defame. Al Jeremy's, this is why he likes this guy. So this is... Attack, attack, attack. Right off the bat, he does exactly what he accuses the God Makers of doing. He himself does it. I recognize I'm quite presumptuous of me to step into, okay, you know what, this is him kind of saying, you know what, I should keep my nose up their business, but I'm not going to. That's, you know, let's paraphrase it. Back to Jeremy. I am interested in your thoughts and answers as I have been unable to find official answers from the church for most of these issues. So he's explaining why, you know, and why he's thanking him. It is my hope that you're going to have better answers than many of those given by unofficial apologists, and at the time Bear was not officially the group under the Neil A. Maxwell Institute, formerly Farms. At the time, Farms was the official arm of the apologetic branch, and they have been transitioned out, and FAIR this day is now the official apologetic branch who has replaced Farms. So this was written in 2018. This rebuttal is 2018. By this time, Farms is no longer in existence. They no longer exist. It is now FAIR, and it's not FAIR Mormon. So if you go to their website, because the church no longer wants the word Mormon used, they hate the word. So the last prophet they have going here is on a big push to bring us away from the term Mormon into and use Latter-day Saints. So now it's fairlatterdaysaints.org. When you go to their website, yes it is. I will have the link once again down the bottom. They're in my links for everyone on the church so far. It's not Fair Mormon anymore. It's Fair Church or Latter-day Saint. So let's be clear. We're talking 2013 when this letter was written. Bennett's response is 2018, 5 years later. Some stuff has changed since then, such as Farms no longer the official branch. Now it's FAIR. So, but, you know, he's saying, Jeremy's saying, I hope you have my answers. And right there, I want to stop you and challenge some questionable assumptions right off the outset. You label both FAIR and the Maxwell Institute as unofficial apologists. So, Jeremy is asking for questions when he's talking about official responses. He wants them, and Bennett even responds to it and says it's ridiculous. He wants responses from the official head of the church. So not the prophet, but from the quorum of the 12. He considers them a official body of the church to speak on behalf of the church, not the first presidency. And why Jeremy is asking that is because if FAIR, now who is part of the Maxwell Institute, FAIR is a front face. So it's easy for the church to say, well, that is FAIR who's saying it, even though they're the official apologists. We didn't officially say it. Though we officially endorsed it, we didn't actually officially say it. So just keep on going. So I'm not going to get into everything. He spends just all this time here. You know, Jeremy is asking, you know, the CES director, just one little thing. He's saying, I'm hoping outside of FAIR. Oops. I'm hoping outside of FAIR Farms that you can give me some answers since you're stepping up to the plate. And we get all this, which is nothing but, you know, nitpicking. It's nothing but nitpicking. He has nothing to say in defense. He has no rebuttal. Jim Bennett is angry, and you can tell in his responses he's angry. So he's getting ready to mudsling. Let's keep on going. I'm not even into the issue. All we're dealing with right now so far, like I kind of pointed out, and I'm going to just quickly skip because you can go to my other video, is I'm trying to establish the character of both people. We are just into the CES letter, so where we have, sorry, my alarm going off. We're just into the CES letter where we have the author establishing his motives and his reasonings to the CES director, so the CES director knows where he's coming from and can follow his train of thought. That's all he's doing. And while he's doing that, Jim is character assassinating him. So I have that in the last video asking, is this what we're going to be getting, a character assassination or a actual thing? So let's go. Okay, fine by me. I've had my shots. He admits he's taken shots. He's literally taken shots. Because he says, I'm going to be straightforward in sharing my concerns. Straightforward. I'm not pussyfooting around this, he's saying. I'm just going to be blunt and give you my concerns. Let's deal with it. Obviously, I am a disaffected member who lost his testimony, which is no secret. Which side I'm on at the moment. At the moment. Right now, Jeremy is upset. He has come across stuff that has devastated every single member who has either stayed in the church or left the church. It's called a faith crisis. He was experiencing a faith crisis at the time. So this is 2013. When this was written. We're getting a rebuttal from Bennett 5 years later. This is important. I'm not spending a lot of time on this. This is important because we're establishing the character of Bennett right now. We're establishing why I'm not going to continue on after this video. all this information, I'm highlighting this so you guys can see it. All this information is a result over a year of intense research and an absolute rabid obsession with Joseph Smith and church history. Fine by me, I've had my shots. So, because he says his rabid obsession. Was that necessary? Let's just get to the meat of this. This is all we're getting. So, like I said, it'd be pretty arrogant and ignorant to say I have all the information and that you don't have the answers. Like you, I put my pants on one leg at a time and see through a glass. Well, that's nice to know. Pants are good, but if you want to publish the CES letters in the UK, perhaps you should see trousers instead. Again, I covered this before, and this is where my friend was like, she's not anti-Mormon. I asked her, how is this relevant? And she said it's not. It's a pot shot, and that's what it is. So Jeremy says maybe you have a new perspective, to the information. So again, I'm not reading it. I'm not wasting my time. All this, just pot shots. There's nothing he's covering. There's nothing he's getting to. Go read it yourself, viewers. Go read it yourself. I'm not covering it because I went a little bit over that. I'm going to get on to why I'm not going on. So he gets more onto Gordon B. Hinckley. He's not really dealing with anything in the CES letters yet. This is why I'm saying I'm not dealing with this bullshit. So let's scroll down. Oh, okay, yes. We'll start here. We're going to start here because I told David we will cover the CES Letter Rebuttal by Jim Bennett. I did this as an honest, intentional rebuttal, critic review. I wanted to do this as a critical review, so I was being honest, and I was reading every page, line by line, like David asked me to. Line by line. So, I would like to see your response to each Jim Bennett rebuttal, each point in the CES letter, line by line. So, that's what I was doing. That's why I'm over here. I was going line by line over here. We'll go twice, line by line. All I have been coming across is ignorant, sarcastic defamation. He is character assassinating. It's defamation. It's demeaning. He's demeaning him the whole time. So as I finally got to something, and I said, "Wow," because I've watched the full Merle Jensen interview. I shared a clip off of it on my other one of my CES letter rebuttals to Saints Unscripted. I seen it. I know it's talking to you. So David brings up 2 points, and I'm going to show his points wrong. So let's go over here and show why we're not going past this anymore. In February of 2012, I was reading the news online when I came across the following news article: Mormonism besieged by the modern age. So the article was information about a Q&A meeting at Utah State University that LDS church historian and general authority Marlin K. Jensen gave late in 2011. He was asked his thoughts regarding the effects of the Google on membership and people who are leaving in droves over the church. He was asked about the people leaving in droves. So Jim here is going to focus and try to say that Jeremy's accusing Jensen of using the term groves. So that's not what he said. The interviewer made the comment. So this year, Elder Merlin Jensen, the Mormon Church's outgoing official historian, acknowledged that members are defecting from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in droves, and that the pace is increasing. So the host said it. Let's go back up here. He was asked his thoughts regarding the effects of Google on memberships and people who are leaving in droves over the church. Does Jeremy say that Merlin Jensen is saying that? Does he? No, he doesn't. Bennett is so angry and bitter against Jeremy that he's not reading Jeremy's letter, or if he is, he's now twisting it. He's now putting words in Jeremy's mouth. And this is supposed to be a scholarly rebuttal against Jeremy's CES letter. No, it's not. It's attacks. Attacks off of and disinformation, because I'm going to show you the disinformation. So the problem is that Elder Jensen said no such thing leaving in the droves. You are correct, Bennett, and neither did Jeremy. Neither did Jeremy. Jeremy says the host. He was asked. He was asked. That means the host asked him about them leaving in droves. That was not Jensen's comment to it. That was the host. So you here, we have no problem with this. This is no promises. And it is. The premises came from the questioner, not Elder Jensen. Correct. Correct. We know that. So we know that. So, but, I don't think it's accurate to say people are leaving in droves, buddy. Rutter's article. Let's go to Rutter's, guys. Let's go to the article. Not since, okay, yeah, you guys can see, I can actually get that bigger. One more here, guys. Let's go down here. Oh, did I just lose the... Not since a famous trouble spot in Mormon history, the 1837 failure of a church bank in Kirkland, Ohio, have so many left the church, Jensen said. So maybe since Kirkland, we've never had a period of, I'll call it apostasy, like we're having now, he told the group in Logan. Maybe since Kirkland, we've never had a period of, I'll call it apostasy, like we're having now, he told the group in Logan. Whoa. Bennett, did you go and find your source? Did you go to Reuters and read the news source that, one of the sources that Jeremy's speaking of? But I'm betting he didn't realize that he would be attributed with the designation of droves. So, come on, guys. Come on. Bennett is contradicting himself. I just showed you where he says that was never said, that this is made up. I just showed you the report. Not made up. Sorry, not made up. So I have attacks starting off the first 2.5 pages. I'm now 4 pages. This is now 4 pages into the problem. So what Jim Bennett calls the problem. We're 4 pages into the CES Letters Rebuttal. Attacks, demeaning attacks, defamation of character assassination towards Jeremy, and misinformation on Jim's part. Jim is saying that Jeremy is making up things and that Marlin Bennett was never cited or said such a thing. He did. There's a lot more to it in the interview. So, did I leave the interview up? No, I didn't. But all right, guys. Terrell Givens. So Terrell Givens, another apologist for the church. He does firesides with his wife, Terrell Givens. So he's actually covered on one of my podcast, or on Mormon Stories podcast that I plan on doing a comment on. But Terrell Givens talks to Marlin K. Jensen. This is a interview. Faith Matters Foundation. So this is a disciple's plea for openness and inclusion. So you guys can go watch it. This is one of the errors that, and did I get that up here? Yeah, this is one of the issues that are up in this area up here. This is one of the sources of contention as well. So we have the quote. We have this discussed. So it's also dishonest to say, as Dallin does, or cites does, that Jensen claimed the pace of drove leavers. That's not Jensen's words. He's putting that into mock, because that's the interviewer who said it. He even agrees, yet he's saying Jeremy says it was Jensen, which it wasn't Jeremy, saying the host. So is increasing. He said no such thing. So he said no such thing. To say we are experiencing some Titanic-like wave of apostasy is inaccurate. So he cherry picks part of the comment here. So he cherry picks. So, and then, he goes on and saying, maybe since Kirkland, we never had a period of, I'll call it apostasy like we're having now. So, let's play honest. Let's play nice, Jim Bennett. Let's not. So, yeah, see, right here. He has it. So, now, and he This is Jeremy. This is Jeremy showing where the clip is. I just showed you the Rutter's clip. So the Rutter's special report will be here. I have it highlighted. I'm not sure if you guys can see it all the way up on your screen. This will be down in the bottom so you guys can read it. This will be here, guys. Let's get on with this bullshit. Why is over history in quotes? Who are you quoting? Who is he quoting? He's quoting the article. He's quoting the article. So come on, Bennett. This is why I'm not going on past this. We're not even on the first real CES issue. And this is what we're dealing with, people. This is why we're not going any further, David. This is why this is the one and one only video getting done on this. Because I want to show the viewers I'm not running from this. I'm not hiding from this. I have no problem addressing this. I have a problem addressing mudslinging. I have a problem addressing defamation. I have a problem addressing character assassination. This is not what I thought I was getting into. This is not what I thought you were giving me, David. If this is what I thought you were giving me, I will have told you straight off the bat, this is just rubbish, and this is not what my channel is about. So let's go down and get to the first real friggin' point. Let's stop wasting history. Let's get down to the real point. Look at all this we have to go through. So just to get to the first CES letter point on the Book of Mormon. So Jeremy quotes Benson. He quotes Jeffrey R. Holland. Benson was a former quorum of the 12, former of the first presidency, and former prophet, seer, revelator, and president of the church. He was a president. He was one of the reasons I first left the church. It was between him and Kimball's teachings, so in two of their books, that I had contradictions with. So two prophets contradicting each other, and this is a problem here. The Book of Mormon is the keystone of our testimony. Just as the arch crumbles if the keystone is removed, so does all the church stand or fall with the truthfulness of the Book of Mormon. So I don't see, Jeremy's just quoting. So this is now Bennett's, rebuttal to Jeremy quoting a prophet and a current member, the second longest now member of the Quorum of the 12, Jeffrey R. Holland, was called in the early 90s. I was still a member at the time, so a teenager when Holland was called as a Quorum of the 12. Now he's the second one left standing from when I was a member. All 10 of them are all new since I was called. So, and this is Jeremy's his rebuttal. I don't know what he's rebutting. The Book of Mormon exists. Now that seems fairly fundamental. That's, in brackets, that's Bennett. That means someone wrote it. Somebody created it before 1829. You have to explain who wrote it. Here it is. It's physical. It cannot be waved away. And then he gives some LDS fireside. He gives an LDS fireside. So Jeremy is questioning Book of Mormon based on some stuff he came across. And Bennett's only rebuttal is a fireside. So, and to admit, well, yeah, the Book of Mormon is a real book. I don't want to get into this yet. This will be part of my True Mormon history coming up in 2 episodes on the Book of Mormon and the witnesses of the Book of Mormon. But every single witness of the Book of Mormon, and this is admitted to by the church, they don't want you to know this, but it is admitted to my viewers, whether you're members, investigators, or non-members, the church admits to this. The witnesses they have in the Book of Mormon, who all say they saw the place and testify to the place, saw them with spiritual eyes. They never physically saw them. They saw them with spiritual eyes. And this is important because this is one of the issues Jeremy has. So in the CES letters, and it's not addressed. It's not. The Book of Mormon exists. Now that seems fairly fundamental. Okay, what defense against that is it? That means somebody wrote it. Yes, and Jeremy's contending Joseph Smith. So he's not denying somebody wrote it. He's contending Joseph Smith wrote it. Somebody created it before 1829. The first vision with Moroni and then the finding of the place, 1823 and 1824. So yes, that's before 1829. Joseph Smith had plenty of time to write the Book of Mormon. Go look up the Ethan Smith and his book that he wrote, so which is the book that is the source of the Book of Mormon. So what was it called? The History of the Hebrews or something along those lines? I'd have to pull it back up. It's been a while since I've got into that. But yes, The Book of Mormon framework was already in existence before 1829. No debate. This is part of the issue. This is part of the issue. It's not being addressed. You have to explain who wrote it. Here it is. A fireside. A fireside. So you guys go watch it. I pulled it up. It's nonsense. It's literally nonsense. And this is where we start addressing issues. This is where, right here. So right here is the first that and this is where we're going to stop after the first 2 points, because Jim Bennett is lying. He's deceitful. He's dishonest with you guys. He's angry and attacking Jeremy. Not even the CES letters. He's attacking Jeremy, because I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you the facts. The facts. Not supposed. The facts with scholar comments who had no clue what they were commenting on at the time. This is Jeremy. CES letters. What are the 1769 King James Version edition errors doing in the Book of Mormon? A purported ancient text. Errors which are unique to the 1969 edition that Joseph Smith owned. Let's quickly talk about what errors mean. So what errors mean? There's 2 King James Bible editions. So if I'm not mistaken, it's 1611. So 1611. Give me a second here, just to give you the 1611. Correct. So 1611. So 1769, we have a different version. So they corrected spelling mistakes in older versions of English, and you will see examples of this, because we have a document and then I have the 2 sources to show you guys, the sources to verify Jeremy's claims. The errors are translations that were in the 1611 to 1779 69 version. The spelling is different. Let's go over and let me show you where there's spelling differences here. And we can verify this. Let's get this big here. So we won't even look at the Book of Mormon. This is Book of Mormon. So this is 1611. This is 16:9. See how heaven is spelled? See how heaven's spelled? So it's different. There's certain words over here. Upon. So when you get to upon, it's spelled with a V. This isn't this gentleman here making some errors. So where is upon afflicted? These aren't just errors. If you go to the King James Bible online, this is, the official, and we pull this up here for you guys. Oh heaven, the U instead of a V. Upon, a V instead of a U. Scribal errors. So the 1769 edition changes spelling that was changing at the time. So it was changing spelling. That's not the errors we're even talking about. So if you look at Greek, if you study Greek and you know what the original Greek meaning is of a word, and then you look at the Vulgate, which is the Catholic Bible. The Vulgate is the Catholic Bible. So it was written in Latin from Greek. Words were changed in translation, which means meanings were changed in translation. The meanings changed in translation that we know, and why there's been revisions of the Bible since, with more correct translations of words from Latin back to the proper Greek. You guys need to know this, because this is what we're debating right now with errors, what we're talking about errors, and why we have newer modern versions of the Bible, because they correct the King James errors of 1611 and 1769, and where those Latin words are in those King James Version, later Bibles that have been put out have gone back to the Greek word, which changes some of the context. That is what we talk about errors. And Joseph Smith did not use from a modern, and the Book of Mormon has not updated to modern terminology to give the Greek back, and that is part of the errors. Is Joseph Smith uses the errors. So, and part of the defense on the church on this, part of the defense, and this gentleman's defense is, well, that was the writing of the time of Joseph Smith. He was using that, Bible. He shouldn't have been using that Bible. He was translating the Book of Mormon from the Urim and Thummim, and then finishing it off with the seer stone directly revelated by God into that. He was seeing the direct revelation. So, sorry guys, So there's no allowed to use the Bible in there. That defense is against you guys. That's our defense against you guys. You can't use it in support of yourselves because it means the Book of Mormon isn't a actual divine translation from God. It means Joseph Smith made it up and used the Bible to help him make it up. Do you see that? Do you see your illogical, irrational argument here, guys? So what do we have? Okay, before I get into this, the article I showed you is a member, so who's dealing with the CES letters, and he's also having a faith crisis, but he's a member, and he put out a call to scholars trying to get what could or could not be. He's trying to reconcile the issues. So, and he even admits on what I just told you, if you go up, and I'm going to just put a highlight here so I don't lose where I am. If I go up here at the beginning, he breaks down the method from the scholars. He goes through, CES letters. He is trying to get some answers, and he sends out a call to the scholars. You go read it. I'll have the link down there. And he's asking them to rank the accuracy of the claims that he's coming across. They do not know why. These scholars were not told why. They have no clue that they're comparing this to Isaiah or to 3rd Nephi. They do not have a clue. Because if you go over to his original errors representation, so he is looking, for instance, compare Isaiah 14:13 and 1st Nephi. So he's comparing 1st Nephi and then later into 3rd Nephi. So he goes all three translations here. 1611, 1617, or 1769, and the Book of Mormon. So this is what he's comparing, and he does not let these scholars here know that he is comparing the Book of Mormon as well as the 1611 and 1769. They just think they're comparing the other two. So the King James Version. So if you go here, I'm not going to point out results. So let's go, where was it? I'm going to the significant errors. So this is Isaiah 10, standard bearer. This is right here, Josten, if you're Dutch, says this. This word is attested only here. Its meaning is Unitarian. So let's skip over to a King James complete nonsense here. Is clear that, and then this is the Hebrew word, or the Greek word, is a weakening of some sort, and the meaning holds local access to semantic languages. So pretty much they're going here, and he says which ones. These are the ones they're saying, and up here. So it's difficult to call it error. They say when it's an error, but difficult to call. So some they call straight out, it's difficult. Where's my other ones? We got a whole shitload over here. So not just hard. Oh, these are the university professors. Anyways, I don't want to get too much on here. The link's down there. Link is in the bottom. You go down and read what out of the 4 scholars, 2, or was it 6? 6 scholars, 2 replied. So you go down and read, because you got to read the document. Honestly, you've got to read the document here. So, and see what the scholars are saying. So they give you what the Greek word means in the for what the King James changed it to Latin. So they go back from the Latin word to the Greek word, and then they tell you what the Greek word is explaining in the semantic Arabic language. So why the Greek uses that word to put it into the context of the time period that they were dealing with. So it's all in here. So you guys can go see. So if it's difficult to call it an error, but it's not accurate, they say so. So, if it's an error, yeah, I know I got a few here. We're not going to be realistic. There goes, That is somewhat different meaning, so I'm prudent. So it makes it less inaccurate in my mind. So he's not saying it's inaccurate, but less inaccurate. So, but it, here. Number 2. So just so you don't think I'm trying to avoid this. So Yostin says again, it's completely rates, this as a 0, which is King James Version is inaccurate, it's an error. So on the Latin to the Greek, so completely inaccurate. The ESV, which is one of the newer versions, is better. So then he goes into what something else here, another version, somewhat accurate. So, but he says the ESV translation is correct. The ESV translation takes Latin words that were changed from Greek and brings them back to the Greek word translation that the Catholic Church changed it to when they did the Vulgate. So, if you're not familiar with what the Catholics called the Bible, it's called the Vulgate. So, but here is examples of things that Bennett said are inaccurate. So, things that Bennett claimed weren't there. So, we do have them there. You can go find the 1611 version. This is the 1611 version of the King James Bible. So, 1611 King James Version. So you can go to the 16, this is the 1769 version right here. So since 1769, we are using the same version. That's the same version that Joseph Smith had. So you guys can go. You can compare. You can go to the CES Letters claims. Your premises appears to be incorrect. The sources you cite do not provide evidence of the 1769 King James Version edition errors unique to Joseph Smith's copy of the Bible. It does. So it does. We have the scholars saying that the errors, and when you think errors, it's not writing down word errors. It's errors that the scribes of the creators, because, okay, I need to stop right here because I'm not sure how many of you guys have a theology background. I mean, scholar, history, and theology. So if you have a historian degree in theology, you know what I'm saying is correct. So when the Catholic Bible came out, there was a ban on any other Bibles. So when we had the Wittenberg Press come out, the Wittenberg Press, if Wittenberg, depending if you're German, Austrian, or saying it the English way. So we had a few Bibles that came out at the time. Those authors like Wycliffe and them were put to death because they were heretics. They had to flee over to Holland, to the Dutch, where they had a non-Catholic government. They had to circulate their versions of the Bible, their translations of the Bible. By the time 1600s came and King James of England, who was once the King of Scotland but was raised to the King of England, he commissioned a new Bible. So, and that's why we call it the King James Bible. And he took all his scholars and had them produce it. If you go to, and I got the book on my shelf. Give me a second here. Let's pause this. This is the book by Alistair McGrath in the beginning. So he goes and gives a history of the Bibles and mainly focuses on the King James Bible. He goes back and he actually explains how the King James scribes, and right in this book, and he's a Christian. He's a Christian historian. He's a respected Christian and historian and scholar. So you can Google him, you can YouTube him. He's got a lot out there. So, but he's a respected Christian scholar, and he even admits that the King James Bible, the 1611 King James Bible, is a compilation of all the other Bibles that had come out before, and they pretty much just did a merger of cut and paste to it. So there were errors in it. So there were issues with it when they're trying to go away from the Vulgate, the Catholic Bible, because not all the Bibles were in line with each other on the translations of Greek. So, and there were errors contained in it. So that's what we talk about, errors. So let's clarify what errors are. So let's clarify. There's books out this by religious scholars and historians who don't go past just, the history part, but are actually theological scholars. This is no secret out there. Might be a secret for you LDS members. Might be secret for you guys who don't do much history or research or not into scholarship. For scholars, historians, and people like myself, and supposedly Jim Bennett, we should know this. We should know this, and we should know what errors mean. So an error isn't the, using the U instead of the V. That would be semantics. Heaven is heaven, whether it's a U or a V. So all that would establish is Joseph Smith copied a spelling error too. That's not what the issue is. The issue is stuff that was from Latin to Greek, translation that was lost because of the translation from Greek to Latin, that remained in the King James Bible. So that was not changed because other Bibles at the time had changed that meaning back to the Greek word before, and others didn't. So learn. Jim, learn or be honest. What are the other? So I just showed you guys. Here's scholars talking about what I'm talking about in heirship. Here's the 1611. Go check some of the differences. Go check the differences over here. If you want it all in one-on-one, this is a perfect site because he has the 1611, the 1769, and Book of Mormon all together. You can go verify there's no deviation between them. So go look. The only difference are if you get down into some of the Book of Mormon areas. So like the Book of Mormon, third one, or is it the fourth? Which one was it? It's so big. There's one of him there where is the quick and understanding, or is it near the bottom? One of them adds a few words here. It's one of the first few. Some of it adds a few words to the beginning before it goes word for word for word. So where was it? Oh heavens. Anyways, one of these ones here has it where it's just a few words from the Book of Mormon extra, and then it jumps into the, you might have seen it while scrolling. The captain in the 50. See, these differences here, captain spelling. This isn't what we're talking about spelling errors. Nevertheless, that's not what we're talking about spelling errors. Oh no, it was they added more. Sorry. They added more to the end, not at the beginning. So see where it stopped at prolonged here in the two versions when they just updated the 69 edition from the 1611. So and then you look at the Book of Mormon. So they both stop at not be prolonged, and then in the Book of Mormon, Smith adds more to it. So there's a few examples like that there, but what they're talking about error and why I'm not going on too much past this because this is just breaking nonsense. Is Jim goes and claims that translation errors aren't there, that he's making wild claims. The errors are there. The scholars talk about the errors. The errors are there. The scholars talk about them. They talk about how they are. You can go and see the differences. Here's the current version, and I say new, 1769 is a long time ago, but that's the version we're on right now. We're still using the 1769 version. So you can take the 69 version and compare it to other Bibles that have been put out that use the Greek translation of words, not the Vulgate translation where they use Latin words, change Greek words to Latin and change the meaning, but go back to the original Greek, which this is supposed to be doing. The King James is supposed to be bringing it back towards the Greek. So away from the Latin and back to the Greek. And this is why it's errors, because the Latin part is still there. What the Catholics took from Greek and put to the Latin is still in there. So that's the error. That is the error. Hello? I went to school. I dropped out just before my first year ended because I lost my faith in Christianity learning about such things. So when you have to learn about the contentions in the church and you don't even learn that into your second year, you learn it near the end of your first year. By that time, I already start questioning because things I was never taught, like who actually wrote the first four books of the Bible. So it weren't Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. We don't know who wrote them. So, and I didn't know that growing up. And here I'm learning that, and then I get to, here's the differences between, and the reason I have this book, this was one of my course material books. This is one of the professor's books I had on our list of reading that they were going to be talking about. in history. This is a historical approach. This book isn't a theological approach. This is a historically written book on the evolution of to get to the King James Bible. So this was one of my reading material books. This is how I got it. This is what made me learn, and how I learned that the Vulgate took the Greek and put it into Latin, and how textual meanings changed, and why there was a great schism, and why the Protestant Reformation moved. And once I started getting into Protestant Reformation, I was out. I stopped believing. I was out. I was gone. So King James was a Protestant. The King James Bible is a Protestant Bible. They were moving from the Latin and back to the Greek. They were, and this is supposed to be a Greek. Let me go here. This is supposed to be a Greek representation of the New Testament, a Greek. So we are arguing errors here, errors in the 1769 book, the Greek to Latin errors. King James should be Latin back to Greek. That's what the King James should be, not Latin representation like we're getting. Now do you guys understand when we talk errors? Now do you understand why I can't accept Jim's rebuttals and his explanations? Either he doesn't know what he's talking about, or he's intentionally being deceitful, and either one doesn't work for me. All he's doing is throwing mud slinging. All he shows is mud slinging. So same thing, when the King James translators were translating the Bible between 04 to 11, they would occasionally put in their own words to the text to make it more readable. It's in this book by Alistair McGrath. He is not a Mormon. He is a Christian theologian. Yes, a theologian. He is a minister as well, and a historian, Christian historian, scholar as well. Not just a historian, he's a scholar as well. This is said in his book as well. So what Jeremy says is right here in his book, not even in the source Jeremy's talking about, but right in Alistair McGrath, a respected, one of the top respected historians and scholars in Christianity. So, and he is saying the same damn thing as this. So we know exactly what these words are because they are italicized in the King James Bible. What are these 17th century italicized words doing in the Book of Mormon, word for word? What does this say about the Book of Mormon being an ancient record? So short answer, long answers. I'm skipping the long answer because it's more mudslinging. You go scroll down to it and read it yourself so you know he's mudslinging. It says absolutely nothing about the Book of Mormon being an ancient record, but it says a great deal about your fundamental misunderstanding of how translations work. Jim, are you going against the the top scholars out there, top historians? This is material in just more than my college that I went to, theology college. This is reading material in many theology colleges when you're learning the history of the Bible. So, and the origin, especially, this is taught material. Not CES, church CES material, my friend. Jim, I don't want to hear your CES garbage. And yes, now I'm going to get a little dirty here. You are defending your attack by using CES LDS material and mindset and belief. I thought I was getting into a serious rebuttal against the CES letter. I was excited to actually hear someone take this on honestly, because Saints Unscripted doesn't. They don't. You're giving Saints Unscripted's narrative and the LDS Church narrative and attacking them at the same time. So this, oh my lord, man, this is why I went a little longer. Let me go. We're almost done here. I went a little longer. This is all he's doing is playing semantics. He's playing semantics with words. So, and semantics is taking one word and trying to argue the same meaning of a different word used. Same meanings, two different words used. Same meaning. And this is what he does. And when he's doing that, he's attacking and mudslinging, and why I cannot go any further into this. So where did I get? I got past here. Oh, okay, I made it. Yeah, I stopped right here. I stopped at the Swahili and Japanese. You know what? So this is, we stopped right here at Swahili and Japanese. This is 20 pages in. 20 pages in of 372 rebuttal. This is 20 pages in of 372 pages of defamation, slander, mudslinging, attacks, and not. I don't know what the rest gets into, but as you guys can see, we've got into 2 points only so far. 2 points after his Jeremy's establishing the reasoning of this letter. And from the establishing to the 2 points, all you guys have seen is mudslinging, nothing being answered, no rebuttal, and personal attacks. I cannot do any more on this. Sorry. David, I refuse to get into mudslinging. I refuse to get into personal attacks. This channel is not for mudslinging. It's not for personal attacks. It's for information and transparent information. I want the Mormon who's watching this, I want the investigator who's watching this to make up their own mind. Their own mind based off the information I've given on both sides. The LDS version and the critic version. So yes, I give both. Every link down there, I give you BYU site. I give you FAIR site. I give you LDS.org if I use them. I give you the LDS source because I use LDS sources too in my rebuttals. You do not. You do not use any sources. You make attacks. Attack after attack. Argument is not there. Rebuttal is not there. I can't be there either. I'm sorry, guys. If you disagree with me and you want me to give you guys a mudslinging program, so I will create one saying mudslinging to the CES Letter Rebuttal. That's what I'll call it, mudslinging, because that's all it'll be on my part too, because that's all I can reply back is mudslinging, because this isn't a rebuttal. This isn't scholarly work. This is just pure straight up garbage. Oh, why? We wasted an hour on this, guys. An hour having to deal with this because some guy here got angry at Jeremy for the CES letter. He got angry. He got bitter. So he started attacking Jeremy. So call it what it is. He started attacking Jeremy. He didn't like it. He got angry. He attacked. That's not what we're about. We're not going there. Hope you guys got something out of this. Have a great day. Until later, BAA. Peace out. Keep it real.